Jazz Notes mock draft. This is our second podcast we've recorded today. Appreciate everyone who was with us for the hour and 15 minute. It was our traditional Jazz Notes podcast. So if you just get updated and you're like, this is the latest episode, where's Jazz Notes? It's in the last one.
Yes.
But if you're new and you're just looking at NBA mock drafts, we cover the Utah Jazz for KSLSports.com. You can find us on Twitter at Ben's Hoops and Holt Sports, or read us at, like I said, KSLSports.com. You can also find us at Blue Sky with those same handles. We're just going to alternate. We're going to go through the draft. We're going to try and do it relatively quickly, but touch on 30 or so players and maybe some names that we missed.
Yes.
And we'll just go in alternate order, try and go relatively quickly, but some guys are going to get hung up on. And if you're just looking for general NBA stuff, we're going to talk about your teams, but we'll probably spend a little bit more time focusing on the Jazz at 5 and 21. We're not doing trades. I don't think it really makes sense to do trades. We're not doing enough mock drafts where we're like, well, let's board and shake it up. Yeah. That's not what we have to do. So we're going to use Fanspo's site. If you haven't used it, they've got a very good tool when it comes to mock draft simulations. And you can do it there.
Yes.
So, but we're going to use our own. I don't have like a big board. I don't make a big board. I don't care about it. I think every team should have a different big board personally. So I don't make one, but I have an idea of who I want. In fact, I'll pull my phone out and kind of where I like guys and have them slotted, even though it's not a traditional big board separated by tiers.
Yes.
What did we decide? I was going to go number 1 overall.
Yeah.
Because it's easy. Cooper Flag.
Yes.
Yeah, Cooper Flag's going to go to the Dallas Mavericks. They won the lottery with less than a 2 points percentage chance of getting there. He's by far the best player in the draft, in my opinion. He's going to be an awesome player. What is there downside with Cooper? Like, what are your thoughts on why he doesn't become a top 10 player in the NBA?
It's just the defense is there. You know that's going to be there. That's going to be there from day one. I think really it is just offensive creation, right? He had his flashes of shooting, especially to close out the year. He got better and better, which is one of the awesome things about Cooper is it seems like every game, every month, he just got better. And that's why I trust that his ball handling will come a long way in the NBA. His shooting will even come around in the NBA a little bit more. To where it's a lot of people are oh, he's the highest level of role player, but no, he's going to average 24, 7 and 5 in the NBA.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
What's your confidence level he's going to be the best player from this draft?
98%.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Because I think the downside, the worst case scenario for him is Aaron Gordon.
Yes.
And how good Aaron Gordon is. And Aaron's a little bit different player coming out of college, but is a better ball handler, playmaker. Yeah. Kind of maybe he even wasn't, is the truth. But that was the role he played more at Arizona. He just wasn't as much of a scorer at Arizona as Cooper is at Duke. So I'm with you. There's no question. Cooper Flag, number 1 overall, and just going to be the future face of the Mavericks, and rightfully so.
All right. Second overall pick, San Antonio Spurs. Almost as easy, not quite, but almost as easy. They're going to take Rutgers, Dylan Harper.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of guess in this. Again, I do think there's a chance that they go a different direction. I think it's very slim, but they could spook themselves. They could overthink this at the last minute and say, let me ask you this. What's your confidence level? Dylan Harper 5 years from now is going to be the second best player from this class.
That's where it gets a little bit more shaky.
I literally would say it's 25% for me.
Yeah.
But that's still higher than any other percentage point I'd have for any other player.
Yeah. It's
that big of a drop off to me of how confident I am. And historically, look at the draft. The second best player being the second best player in the draft, or the second overall pick being the second best player in the draft is pretty rare.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just opens up a lot. So if the Spurs decided, hey, we don't like the fit at all, and we like a VJ Edgecombe, or we want shooting, just raw shooting, Trey Johnson, or Con Knipple, or whatever. If you want to go Ace Bailey and go high upside swing and better size, they could go there. But I'm with you. I think it's Dylan Harper.
Yeah.
76ers on the board at number 3. This does seem like we're rounding into the idea of a consensus. Yes. It feels like we're getting there.
Yep.
Which is how it happens. It kind of stacks. You get consensuses. And I do think it's going to be VJ Edgecombe.
Okay.
I kind of think that's the direction we're heading.
I agree.
And you know what? I like VJ. We went back and I've gone back and listened to our podcast and we kind of broke them down. And I think it was even before the lottery for the Jazz of why that would be kind of a weird spot for him. And I still feel like it would be. If you got him at 5, I think you'd be thrilled. But I just think there's just real two-way chops there. And he does have an elite thing. He's the best athlete in this class.
Yes.
And if he doesn't have to be your number 1 guy, I think he's going to be really good. I think he has a chance to be a really good player. I do worry that there's some Isaac Okoro there. I mentioned that, but I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
And I think he's better than Isaac Okoro.
And you talked about the danger of drafting for fit over best player available. But I think there's a little bit of both sides there.
The best case scenario is when you have need and BPA.
Yes.
That's the best situation you can find yourself in other than just having the number 1 overall pick.
Yes.
And yeah, he's not Tyrese Maxey. He's not Jared McCain. He's also not like the worst player at the spot that they're just reaching on. Like there's a legitimate argument for him to be the 3rd best player in this draft.
Yes. And on top of that, like I think that, like you said, real two-way chops, and like Tyrese and Jared McCain, like they're not Trae Young, but they're far from good defenders, you know? So
And
it's like,
you know what? Philly's done a good job developing guards for whatever reason.
Yes.
They've and maybe it's just playing next to Joe Embiid really helps.
True.
Good. If that helps VJ Edgecombe, like I actually think his ceiling is higher coming into the draft than where either Tyrese or Jared McCain's ceiling was.
Yes.
Because he's got better physical tools.
okay, 4th pick, Charlotte Hornets.
This gets really interesting.
This is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go with what has been the talk more recently with this pick. In reality, like we talked about in our podcast, you should go back and listen to. If Ace Bailey's available at 4, the Hornets are going to be receiving calls about this pick.
I think the Nets will call.
Yes.
I think the Raptors could call. I think the Pelicans will call. I think the Wizards will call. And what's interesting again about this is that the Jazz, the Wizards, the Pelicans, and the Nets all have their picks, and then they have picks later in the first round. Every single one of these teams could just package their picks to move up a spot or two if they were like really wanting to. And you may have to, the further down you drop, the more you have to add, right?
Yes.
But Brooklyn has 4 picks in the first round. Like if they just wanted to say, we need a star, we need a guy, they could conceivably package 3 or 4 of them. I don't think they would, but yeah, it's out there. It's just why it gets so interesting here.
Yeah. With that said, I have the Charlotte Hornets taking Con Knueppel. Like, crazy shooter, one of the smartest guys in the draft. His like athleticism numbers, which we talked about I think 2 weeks ago, were like much better than expected when he had his late combine. And also reports are that he's just like killing a lot of these interviews, which is to be expected because like it's just you and an open net in a lot of cases. And that is like Con Knueppel is a ridiculous shooter. And I just think he would slide in perfectly between LaMelo and Brandon Miller.
Comes from a basketball background. I've told you I kind of the reason why like Bryce Sensabaugh is starting to round into shape for the Jazz. It's like I think he's might be Bryce Sensabaugh with like a perfect IQ.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not to say Bryce has a bad IQ. It's just like Bryce had to constantly play as like the number 1 guy everywhere he went through his whole life, including at Ohio State. And I think Con's he's been the number 1 guy, but like went to Duke and realized like, well, I can defer to these guys and we're going to get a lot better. And like I'm a really good pick and roll passer. So like some of the things you talk about with these other big guards that are out there that make like Yegor Demin intriguing. I actually think Con does some of those things.
Yeah.
Can make some of those same passes. Not at that same level, but make some of those same passes. And then on top of it, has an argument to be the best shooter in the draft.
Yes.
My only thought on that is if you're not trading out of 4, and again, we're not doing trades, which is why.
Yes.
Like, do you think if you went from 4 back to 6, there would still be a chance Con Knueppel would be on the board? Or are you like so positive that whoever trades up to 4 to get Ace Bailey, you drop down to, let's say it's 6. Are you so positive the Jazz are taking the guy that you want at 5 that you can't fall back to 6? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do. I would say, like, in my opinion, I would think it would be like a true coin flip.
Yeah.
Like, because like from an outside perspective, the Jazz need to like swing high, right? They like odds are they're like wanting to get an all-star. Well, they want to get an all-star, but like on the other end of that, like they have yet to get a guy, and that's like they have taken some risks to get there. So like, do they keep on taking risks because it hasn't really worked out for them thus far?
Yeah,
you know. So I think it would be a coin flip.
And then how big of a gap do you think between like Con Knueppel and Trae Johnson?
Yeah.
Do you think it's huge? Do you think it's not very big? Those are the types of questions you have to ask yourself.
Yes.
All right, number 5 on the board. We'll just both talk about these, and then you'll get to make the 6th pick. Look, I the names are Trae Johnson, are Ace Bailey now, are Jeremiah Fears, and Common Malawash. Like, there's just been like kind of enough with all those. I don't know if like Kasparis Yakashonis is in this conversation. I don't know if Derek Queen's in this conversation.
Yeah.
If you were to drop back, maybe those guys start entering the talks a little bit more. So the hard part with Common Malawach is like if you draft him, you have to trade Walker Kessler, and you better kind of have that deal done, right? No, because you actually lose a lot of leverage the second you draft Malawach.
True,
because teams know you have to trade him. Know you have to trade Walker Kessler. So maybe they don't feel as forced to offer as much. They can feel like they can back off a little bit and don't feel like, we know you have to move him. It's no longer a choice for you, so that's not beneficial for you anymore.
Yes.
That's why I kind of don't buy the Malawach stuff. I get it. I totally get it. I actually just don't even know if like him as a player fits as like the 5th best player in this draft.
Yeah.
Personally, you would have to really believe in the shooting.
True.
If it's going to get there. Trey Johnson, if Colin Knipple's not the best shooter in the draft, I do think Trey Johnson is.
Oh, yeah.
His ability to shoot, sorry, I'm just grabbing my power cord here. I think his ability to shoot and the types of shots he takes off the dribble are different than what Colin takes. And there's value in it.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't matter if you're in an isolation situation, you can take a lot of shots. He's going to take a lot of shots. He's going to need a lot of shots that will be effective in the NBA. And are you so confident in who he is as a player that you're going to commit that much of your team to Trey Johnson going forward? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's really hard to say. I think that Trey Johnson, and this is like Trey Johnson and Ace Bailey, even though they're both like consensus top 6 guys, they're also like the boom or bust potential is kind of crazy with them.
Mm-hmm.
Like Trey Johnson, just if he never like sort of wakes up on defense and like he just never really more than like a tough shot maker, like he doesn't make much ways in like his shot creation, and it's like, okay, what is his role in the NBA? And then with that said, I think Ace Bailey's floor is higher than Trey Johnson's floor would be, because like worst case for him, like what, like Michael Porter Jr., you know?
I really have had this like debate with myself a lot. Like, if you were considering drafting Trey Johnson, why wouldn't you just take Ace Bailey?
Yeah.
Like, Trey's shots went in at a higher level.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. Like, that's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're both just like so-so passers, and I kind of went on a rant on Twitter about why I think assist-to-turnover ratio is kind of bunk in college basketball.
Yeah.
Like, I actually think Ace Bailey taking a lot of those shots, even though they were insane, were better than his teammates at Rutgers. And same with Trey Johnson. Some of his shots, they were crazy. They still went in 40% of the time, and they were better than what his teammates were going to take. So I don't care about that as much, and that's why I don't care about assist-to-turnover ratio as much. There's not a lot of truly bad assist-to-turnover ratio guys in the NBA. Now, maybe if you're so bad, you just don't make the league.
Yeah.
But I actually think, like, I already talked about Bryce Sensabaugh came in with like a 1-to-2 assist-to-turnover ratio. Like, he had twice as many turnovers as he did assists. As soon as he got to the NBA, it was 1-to-1.
Yeah.
Like, it's the second he got there. So I'm not that worried about it, actually, with Trey Johnson and Ace Bailey. So I'm not sure if my thought was like, I know what I'm getting is a potential leading scorer on my team who makes tough shots. Why would I take the 6'5" guy over the 6'7.5" guy in Ace Bailey? And it's like, yes, I think Trey Johnson's a better ball handler, but he doesn't get anywhere with it.
Yeah.
So what do I care? He's not getting to the rim over and over and over. And neither is Ace.
Yeah.
So I'm just taking, maybe I'll just take the bigger guy and hope that the ball handling comes along for him just as likely as it may for Trey Johnson. And then there's some skill there of him being able to attack the basket, because boy, does he attack the basket when he gets the opportunity.
Yes.
Like, when it opened up, he finishes on top of guys with like some crazy dunks.
Yes.
And Trey Johnson never did that.
No.
So that's just kind of where my thought has been. Like, if they're both on the board, I think my default would be go with the guy with size.
Yes, absolutely. And on top of that, like Ace Bailey, like we talked about, is like a 3-2, right?
Mm-hmm.
For Trey, like I don't know if I'd really trust him to run the 1 or the 3. Like, like you'd have to sort of play around, see what he can develop, and like will he get bigger? Will he become a better passer? Like, etc. And with like, you look at the Jazz roster, like Colin Sexton, Keontae George, Isaiah Collier, and then you have Larry Markkinen, Filipowski, Walker Kessler. Like, I think that Ace would slide in pretty well there. Yeah. In a 3 sort of role. So
I think there is something to be said, and we'll touch on Jeremiah Fears quickly. But I think there's something to be said that everyone was surprised that Ace measured in a little bit smaller, because he did look bigger, and he played a little bit bigger, hence the 8 rebounds a game.
Yep.
And everyone was surprised at how big Trey measured because he played smaller.
Yes.
And that's actually kind of a red flag for Trey, and I think actually kind of a green flag for Ace. That like, you thought he was bigger than he was. That's good. He played big. Like, he kind of played to that size. And you thought Trey was smaller than he measured out because he played small.
Yeah.
All right, Jeremiah Fears quickly. You and I are not huge Jeremiah Fears guys.
No.
I'm not like totally out on him entirely. I get it. The shot doesn't go in.
Yeah.
And we're talking about all these other guys. Cooper Flagg, the shot goes in. I believe Dylan Harper, the shot's going to go in, and he can get to the paint and score that way. VJ Edgecombe, the shot went in enough for me.
Yeah.
Con Knipple, the shot only goes in. Trey Johnson, the shot only goes in.
Yeah.
I do think Ace Bailey's going to put the ball in the hole.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very confident in that. I just don't know if that's the case with Jeremiah Fears. And then he's a little on top of it.
Yeah. And it's like, he turns the ball over. He doesn't play defense. It's just like the Jazz, I think, well, again, we talked about like drafting for fit is really scary, probably what you shouldn't do. But like, I think the Jazz either need to take a swing or they need to like go for fit, right? Which is why if Con Knibble is 5, I really would not mind that for the Jazz, because he at least like helps you in some of the areas that you need the help in. And I think that Jeremiah Fears, like, it would be taking a swing, but I think it's like way too big of a swing. Like, you're trying to hit a home run with a yoga ball here. Like,
Yep.
it's just not going to happen. I don't know.
All right. What would your thought be then?
I would say if the board falls like this, mind you, I do think, like, just with chalk, I think that the Hornets, if they couldn't trade the pick, they wouldn't really like want Ace Bailey like they would, but it's like the fit is weird, so they would take Con Campbell. I think he fits there. If the board's like this, I would take Ace Bailey.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Ace Bailey at 5 to the Jazz.
Yep.
And again, I kind of think Ace Bailey's going to be off the board still. I think a lot of the smoke is a little overblown.
Yes,
but
I agree.
if this is the fall, this is what it's going to look like for me.
Yeah. I don't see him going lower than 5.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It'd be crazy if he really dropped, and there would have to be more to the story than I think just his game alone. And I think that's where it gets difficult. All right. On the board, the Wizards at 6. This is your pick.
Yes. The Wizards, another team sort of like the Jazz. Like, they have a lot of areas they need to improve, and they also like, rumors are they're willing to trade up, and sort of a thing where it's like they don't really have a lot of like building blocks there. Like, they have,
I like some of their pieces.
Like, they have good pieces.
Nobody
right?
I wouldn't draft over.
Yes, exactly. Similar with the Jazz. Best case of that, Jordan Poole, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he is finding another team soon, maybe not next year after, something like that. Because I think the pick for them would be Trey Johnson.
Okay.
Like, there's the upside swing, but also like, if you just get a good point guard in there and he can really run your 2 and just let him grow. That's something I like about Washington, is no matter who they take, they're going to have like creative freedom on the court, more or less.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And this should be, along with Alex Sarr, their kind of best player.
Yes.
Bob Carrington, like, I wouldn't be so in love with what he did last year, even though he made the all-rookie team, that like, you're going to only build around him. So, like, if you thought Jeremiah Fears was better, fine, take him. And Jeremiah Fears gets into the paint, Bob Carrington doesn't. Bob Carrington likes to stay outside and shoot threes, which is where I think there's maybe a little fear that Trey Johnson does the same thing.
Yeah.
But Bob is more of a point guard, and Trey Johnson's a 2. I know that he's a point guard. So I think they can absolutely play together.
Yeah.
And actually, Trey Johnson's defensive woes are enough that, like, actually having Alex Sarr next to him and Bilal Coulibaly, I think, makes some sense.
Yeah.
So Trey Johnson, number 6 overall to the Wizards. Coming in at number 7 is the Pelicans. This is my pick. They are in a similar spot. Like, they have DeJounte Murray, who I know suffered an Achilles, right?
Yes.
So he's going to be out most of the year, but we'll come back at least at some point this season. They do have CJ McCollum, so they kind of got some shooting, but I don't think they're like in love with either of those guys. Zion's a total question mark.
Yeah.
They've got great wings in Trey Murphy and Herb Jones, but they also seem to like not be in love with those guys. Told you I like Yves Missy. I think I would trade Yves Missy now after a good rookie year, and I think I might just take Common Malawash.
Yeah. Okay.
And just say, like, that's just the big guy I'm going with.
Yeah.
He's going to anchor my defense. If Zion doesn't work out, I love the idea of Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, and Common Malawash just being like these super long dudes that kind of anchor a team. So I don't love it. I really don't. But conceptually, I think even if DeJounte Murray comes back and can play, like, those guys actually all fit together a little bit.
Yeah.
And you better buy that Common's going to be able to shoot threes at some point. Otherwise, I think this is a bit of a reach, and I think this is a reach for me still. But I'm not like crazy about the roster that's here for them. And as much as I like Yves Missy, I think I might try and just like see if like the Lakers would give me something of value for him. So it's not my favorite pick, but that's, as much as like I think Jazz fans were really frustrated by falling to 5 in the draft, like, thank goodness you're not at 7.
Yes.
Because that could have gotten ugly really quickly.
All right. So Malawash at 7 to the Pelicans. Now, number 8, the Brooklyn Nets. And we've talked about the Brooklyn Nets are somebody who are probably going to be looking to trade up into the top 5.
Could definitely see it.
Yeah, them,
and they've
the Pelicans.
got 4 first-round picks.
Wizards, yeah, exactly.
Now they're at 19, 26, and 37. They also have the 36 picks. They have 5 picks in the top 36.
Yes.
It's too many.
Yeah, 100%. But with that said, like, they are going for high upside swings. Like, I think no matter what the pick is.
I kind of loosely put like needs, and a lot of teams I did just put best player available.
Yeah.
Sometimes I change it up. Like the Nets, I just put star upside. Like I think they really need to take a swing.
Yes. And even though I really hate this pick for fit and also just not my favorite player, I think that if it felt like this, it would be Jeremiah Fears.
I think so too.
Yeah. And it's like, you already have Cam Thomas, who was like the most shoot first guard, like one of the most shoot first guards in the NBA. And then you're getting another guy who sort of projects like that. But at the end of the day, Jeremiah Fears is in these conversations because he does have star upside. And that's what they need.
His ability to get into the paint, kick the ball out would probably be good for Cam Thomas.
Yes.
I actually think that he can. I think Jeremiah Fears can probably do more point guard stuff than we give him credit for.
Yeah.
He had to score for Oklahoma.
True.
So if he can adjust a little bit of his sliders of like less scoring, more passing, he might be really valuable here. And then like he can make Cam Johnson look really good too if they're going to keep Cam Johnson at all. So I think there is some help there. And again, they've got so many picks, they can go and try and do some other things there. And yeah, I think it's interesting there. Raptors on the board coming in at number 9. Honestly, this is probably where I would have liked Common Malawash to have gone. I think this might have been the perfect situation for him. They've just like got Emmanuel quickly, and they've got RJ Barrett. Now they've got Brandon Ingram. So like I'm a little hesitant to give them a guard, even though I think that's probably where the value is on the board at this point. Pirtle's not their future at center, which is again why I think I would have really liked like Malawash here.
Yeah,
like they might go something weird, like Joan Berger. Like they might go like super. They're a weird team. Right? Remember they drafted Bruno Caboclo. It was 2 years away from being 2 years away. This is the all-time great line. Credit Fran. They could go international here. I think they're going to, in this situation, there's 2 names I'm looking at.
Okay.
I'm looking at Derek Queen.
Yes.
And I'm looking at Colin Murray Boyles.
Okay.
Both guys are kind of 4.5s.
Yes.
I'm gonna go Derek Queen.
Okay.
I think there's a real star upside with Derek Queen.
Yes.
You and I both kind of talked about like the flaws there and like kind of the weird things. I am really worried that he's truly a 5.
Yes.
And he's not a good enough like defensive player at all to play anywhere. But like I love Scotty Barnes. I think Scotty Barnes is one of my favorite players in the NBA, and he's kind of a weird dude, but like in a good way, and like kind of a funky player on the floor, but I think beneficial. I think you can find enough players around it. And then look, I just think you can find centers later in the draft. And if you want to find them in the second round or whatever, what other picks do they have? I'm not sure what other picks the Raptors have, if they have any, but I'd be curious to address that somewhere later as like a true center if I was terrified that he wouldn't be able to do it at all.
Yes.
The Raptors have the 39th pick. Like, fine, get Kalkbrenner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In all honesty. So, okay. Raptors, Derek Queen. Next up on the board, number 10. Suns just acquired this pick.
Yes, the Suns now. And I saw when the KD trade went through, a lot of people were like, man, the 10th pick, like, what does that do for you? Like, there are some names here. Like, there are some like some real interesting names, especially for what the Suns need.
Quickly, what did you think of the Kevin Durant trade?
When there was the rumor that came out before that the Suns had no interest in Jalen Green. So like when it was first announced, I was like, who's the third team, right? But then I was like, KD's 36, 37 years old. He's on a $50 million contract. His extension eligible for like $60 million. So I think the package made sense.
I think the fact that you got the 10th pick is impressive.
Yeah,
I think there's a world where this was Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, and like a player like Cam Whitmore.
Yeah.
Who's just kind of a guy for KD. And you're like, man, we didn't get any out, like any legitimate out. So I actually thought they did pretty well. Even if you want to go back and say, well, Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson and 4 firsts was a terrible trade to end up with these guys just 2 years later.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the sunk cost fallacy. Like you made the trade already. So now you got to move on to the next thing. So I actually don't hate this for the Suns, even though I'm not traditionally a huge believer in what the Suns have done.
And that's the other thing is Phoenix had zero leverage in this situation as well. So
they could use a point guard. They could really use a big guy. I actually kind of hate the way the board broke for them. That Malawash and Queen are off the board.
True.
I think those 2 guys would be really good fits here.
Yeah. And that's why with those 2 gone, I'm looking at guard because otherwise I definitely would be looking at probably a center. I'm going to go with Kasparas Yakushonis for the Phoenix Suns. I think that's good because like right now you look at their roster, they have Jalen Green, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal, all of which are definitely 2s before they are 1s. So I think bringing in a point guard who is at least a good passer is going to be great for them.
I think they would be able to benefit really well from the idea that they don't need Yakushonis to do a lot of scoring.
Yes.
He can defer. But also if he has to drop back and like play off the ball and just be a floor spacer, which Goran Dragic did very well, and that's kind of the lazy comp that a lot of people make for him. And he played his best basketball in Phoenix. I think that could make some sense.
Yeah.
All right. I like the pick. Sorry, let me pull him off the board here for myself on our Fanspo draft. All right, coming up on the board now, number 11, the Suns, or excuse me, the Trailblazers, one of the more interesting teams.
Yes.
They truly can just go best player available, right? Because they have young centers, they have young guards, they have young. When you're bad for 8 straight years and you get all these lottery picks, you can do a lot of damage. It's weird to be like, they need a center. It's like, no, they don't. They don't. They've got all these guys, but like, man, they've got Shaden Sharp. They just got all these players. I don't think they need Scoot Henderson's replacement either.
No.
So I will go swing here.
Okay.
There's a couple of names. I'm going to go with a wing.
Okay.
They make a lot of sense for me for Noah Senge.
Yes.
I think like kind of who they are. I think not that they've gone traditionally like super heavy like international guys in the last couple of drafts, but I could see it.
Yeah.
Now look, they've just got good players all over the place.
True.
I love Tamani Kamara. Like I think that's a good piece there.
Yeah.
I love Denny Avdia. They figured out how to use him that the Wizards never could. So like they can really go for a swing here and give Noah Senge a couple of years to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think that's totally fine. And if it does click, I think it's going to make a lot of sense, even though I think this is a reach for him.
Yes.
And there are some other names I might have looked at. I'm not sure he's a much bigger reach than anyone else I would have talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Now, up next, with the 12th pick, the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls are a really interesting team.
Yep.
I do think that
they need help everywhere.
They need help everywhere.
They're bad everywhere.
I do imagine they're going to move on from Vucevic, although like I feel like that's been talked about for like since they got him almost.
Yeah.
And it's like,
well, look, they've got Giddey.
yeah, they have Giddey. They have Lonzo, who might be moving as well.
Who might be moving as well. I thought they had an okay draft last year and stepping up and having some success with Monas Buzelis.
Yes.
I like their guard rotation. Like
Yeah.
I think Kobe White's a good player. I know he's kind of always thrown around in trade rumors, but like I think there's enough there.
Yes.
Like I'm not sure I need to get a guard. And like you said, like they got to probably find their replacement for Vooch at some point.
Yeah.
But anyways, your draft.
The two in my head right now that I'm thinking between is Thomas Sorber and Colin Murray Boyles. Let me see what I had for them for team needs, because I wrote that down. I wrote defense and then interior if possible.
Yeah.
So
I think there's one name that really makes sense here.
I think, are you thinking Thomas Sorber?
That's who I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's who I'm going to pick as well.
I love Thomas Sorber.
Yeah.
I was really shocked by how much I liked him.
Yes.
He's a guy I would feel very comfortable taking in this slot. I know he's drawn some comps to like Wendell Carter before, who they had drafted and actually traded for Vooch.
Yes.
I think he's a better player than Wendell Carter. He's a little bit bigger. He plays really strong. So I like that. And I think they need a big guy. I think it is an area of need. And I think he's just like, I think this is a good value pick. We talked about the best situation to be is best player available and biggest need. And I think Thomas Sorber addresses some of those things for him.
Yeah.
I like the pick. He's actually the type of guy who actually could kind of unlock Patrick Williams a little bit too, who's just like the most overpaid player in the league. But because of that, you're not going to be able to trade him. So maybe getting somebody who does some of the things to make his life easier is better. Hawks on the board now coming up at 13. Again, like the rumors, they just really want Common Malawash, somebody to step in and replace Clint Capella, and they're not going to get him. So I don't want to waste too much time on this because I actually think it makes a lot of sense, and I think they just take Berenger.
Okay.
Right? Like, I think he's raw, but you know what? If I'm raw, but I have some defensive upside, give me the point guard who takes all the decision making out of it for me.
Yes.
And I think Trey does that for
True.
me. Like, might not be the pick they love, but like I think you need that vertical spacing lob threat to make that offense work. And Quinn Snyder did a very good job with Rudy Gobert when he was in Utah, and I think he could try and replicate some of that with Berenger.
Yes. Okay. Last pick in the lottery, San Antonio Spurs.
What a luxury.
Yeah.
Right? They can just take whoever.
Yeah, 100%. Which is like, I'm trying to think about the people they have and who they might end up moving off of soon. Like Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell are always thrown around. I would think they would really want to keep Vassell.
They're in a crunch.
Yeah.
They just have a lot of names, a lot of players who can play.
I think here it's like, this isn't necessarily like the highest upside swing, which like you said, they have the freedom to do. I think I want to take Colin Murray Boyles here.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Just because like they sort of have this theme, like with the fourth pick, they got Stephon Castle, he basically came in as like all defense. Not all defense, like he had the like projectables for his offense and ended up coming around. He had a really solid rookie year. And then you have Wemby, who is like stays healthy. He's going to be multiple defensive player of the year winner. And I think that sort of sliding him in as like the 4, maybe even play up to the 3, just like all defense. And then it's like with these guys around him, De'Aaron Fox, you're going to have Dylan Harper come in. There's like zero pressure offensively for him. And I think that'll be good.
I think Colin Murray Boyles passing fits with what the Spurs do. Yes. I think he can really move the ball. I actually like the more shooting you have, the better, the great. He's a terrible shooter.
True.
And that's hard with like De'Aaron Fox. Like there might be some spots where it's just hard to play him.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is if you have a guy like Colin Murray-Boyles, you can't play him next to Walker Kessler. You can play him next to Wemby because Wemby's going to step out and space the floor. So like I guess the problem is then they can kind of switch who they're going to defend, and you can always just throw the player who better fits on Wemby.
Yes.
And that's hard. But on the flip side, like I think legitimately 2 years from now, Colin Murray-Boyles, like you could probably put him on like Jokic for a little bit. I think he's that strong.
Yes.
And then Wemby's your like help side shot blocker who steps over, and that's where he becomes like truly absurdly elite. Is like he doesn't have to be the lead on ball guy.
Yeah.
And I think there's some value there. So I just think that could be best player available. And he's just like, the fit's a little goofy.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's a great fit for them at this point. All right, that's the lottery. Do we want to quickly recap? Cooper Flagg to the Mavericks, Dylan Harper to the Spurs, VJ Edgecombe to the 76ers, Con Knipple to the Hornets, Ace Bailey to the Jazz, Trey Johnson to the Wizards, Common Malawash to the Pelicans, Jeremiah Fears to the Nets, Derek Queen to the Raptors, Kasparis Yakashonis to the Suns, Noah Essengay to the Trailblazers, Thomas Sorber to the Bulls, Joan Beranger to the Hawks, and Colin Murray-Boyles to the Spurs.
Yeah.
All right, second half of the first round now where we get out of the lottery and the Oklahoma City Thunder are on the clock. The Thunder should absolutely be looking to package to trade out or trade up.
Yes.
They also have the 24th pick, so they don't need to add 2 more rookies to a team which won the title, especially because they have the lottery guard that they just drafted last year who has not played yet and is going to be back and healthy next year. They just don't need to bring 3 rookies to that team.
Yeah.
So they should be trying to trade 15 and 24 together to move up to like 9, and get a guy that they think is going to be a difference maker. I don't know if that's enough to move up. And then at that point, it's like, is it worth moving up to 11? You know, I don't know. Maybe not. They can truly just go best player available. They can take a high upside swing. I would go with a guy who I actually don't think needs to touch the ball and can be effective and does some of the stuff they want. I'm just going to go Carter Bryant here.
Okay.
I just think it's easy. I think it makes a lot of sense. He doesn't ever need to touch it, which is great. He's not going to. Yeah. They've got a lot of guys who, and they've succeeded with guys who just like knock down threes and then play defense on the other end.
Yes.
And as good as Case and Wallace and Alex Caruso are, they are not as big as a Carter Bryant. So I think it's kind of simple. I just take Carter and you can give him 2 years. Yeah. You can play your G League team if you want for a whole year and never see the floor. And that's just totally fine.
Okay.
There are some big guys I would have taken if they were on the board.
Yeah.
I actually thought Thomas Sorper would have been a good fit for them.
Yes.
Because I think he's going to do a lot of the same things that Hartenstein does. Just like be big and strong and allow Chet to like cover up some of Chet's weaknesses.
Yes.
He's just not on the board. And that's the hard part about this. So yeah, give me Carter Bryant.
Okay, up next.
Which, by the way, I like Carter Bryant at 15. I don't like him at 9.
Yes,
that's
I agree.
kind of where his value I think is.
Okay, 16, Memphis Grizzlies. This is something we talked about recently, and the more I've thought about it, the more that I think it's going to happen because I don't think anyone is going to take him before this pick, and I think that he would even slide for a bit after this pick, but I think the Memphis Grizzlies take Nick Clifford.
I think it makes total sense.
Yes.
I think it's the type of player they've drafted historically. He brings some shooting to replace Desmond Bane. He's not that good of a shooter, but he is a shooter. Yes. I think he's got some legit shooting chops. He's ready to play pretty early. They've made a killing with guys that are before-year college players that come in. This might be my favorite like fit in the draft as far as like when it gets into this range and it opens up a little bit. Where do you go? I think that makes some sense.
Yeah.
All right. Timberwolves on the board coming in at number 17. They probably, I know it seems silly, they probably need a center. Yeah. They seem to be willing to move off of Rudy Gobert. Yes. And if it's not this year, maybe it'll be next year. So I would look at a couple of center names there. I do think they kind of lost something by losing Cat. I mean, obviously they did. Cat's a good player, but they got some real talent back in Julius Randle. They can afford to go best player available. They've been to back-to-back Western Conference Finals, but I'm just going to go with Asa Newell. Okay. I think that's a little bit, we haven't talked about Asa on our podcast. I think one of the reasons why Asa gets overlooked a little bit is because like there's a lot of guys like that in the NBA, and for some reason that's a perceived weakness. But that's like looking at traffic and being like, all these cars have 4 wheels and a steering wheel. Why? That's like, yeah, you have to have those things. Yes. Like to work, you have to have those things, and all these teams want to have guys like Asa Newell. And if you don't know anything about him, he's kind of a 4 or 5. He's a little bit thin. Didn't shoot the 3 great in his one season at Georgia, but like did shoot it and like likes to shoot it. But catches lobs, like I can kind of be a multi-positional defender. Yeah. Really good athlete. There's some intrigue with his ability to put the ball on the floor. I actually liked him quite a bit. We didn't talk about him hardly at all, but I like Asa.
And that's sort of like why I had talked about like Rasheer Fleming and why I liked him a lot as like a 20 to 30 prospect. And then specifically with the Jazz, right? Like we had talked about how he's like sort of almost the exact thing as Taylor Hendricks, but like that archetype is valuable. And that's the same thing with Asa Newell.
Yep, and two-way player.
Yeah.
Like, just stuff that's good. I wish he passed it a little bit better. He doesn't, but that's fine.
Okay, now number 18, Washington Wizards. I think looking at how this has fallen, it's tough because I think, like we said, with taking Trey Johnson at 6, like they're just looking for upside. And I don't like Jace Richardson is a name I'm looking at here. I'm also looking at Yegor Demon.
Okay.
And it's kind of hard to say because you did take Trey Johnson. So if you're taking Jace Richardson, that's kind of
that's pretty rude. That's pretty similar.
Yeah,
it's a little overlapping.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're taking 2 scoring guards. At least with Yegor, like he's looking to pass first. But I don't even know if I want to go with a guard here.
Yeah.
Which is why I think I might go Liam McNeely.
Okay, interesting.
Actually, Liam McNeely or Will Riley. I don't know. What would you say? What would you think the Wizards would go here?
I could see him going Will Riley.
Yeah.
Because I think they traditionally have like kind of long guys.
Yes.
And Will Riley is a long guy.
Yeah. I think Will Riley does make a little bit more sense, so we can go him. But just with how the board has fallen and they already did take Trey Johnson, I think Jace like really might be the best player left on our list.
Okay.
Like if we're doing like big board style, not necessarily with fit. But yeah, I think that they wouldn't go another guard after taking Trey.
I don't think so. Not like another pure shooting
Yes.
guard. And I think Jace is a little bit more of a pure shooting guard.
Yeah.
All right. Nets on the board at number 19. They've been rumored to be interested in Yegor at 8.
Yes.
And he's still on the board, but they did take Jeremiah Fears. And it's like, how many non-shooting guards are you going to have on your roster? And again, but this is why we talked about like how these guards start to drop and really slip for you. I'm going to go with, you know what? I'm going to go with Maxime Reynaud.
Okay.
I think actually having a 5 that steps out and space the floor is actually a really good fit next to Jeremiah Fears.
Yes.
Right? And again, that's not what you're building. Like you're building a team. You're not
Yes.
building just who fits next to the guy you drafted at 6. But I love Reynaud. I think he's really going to shoot the ball. I think he's a good offensive weapon. I think they have some good guys, and like Nick Claxton, that can sit back and defend the 4 and the 5.
Yes.
And you can kind of replace Reynaud with them or play him alongside those guys. So I just think he gives them an element that they don't have.
Yeah.
So give me Maxime Reynaud to the Nets.
Okay. This next one is interesting.
Heat are always tough. You
Yes.
never know which direction the Heat are going to go.
No. Looking at, like, they have Tyler Hero already, which because of just Tyler Hero being there, like I wouldn't go Jace.
Okay.
And like you have Bam and you have Andrew Wiggins, and you have Davion Mitchell. Like you have some good defensive pieces there. You're right. Like I have no idea what direction the Heat would go in. I think Jazz fans would hate this, but I'm gonna go Yegor right here.
Okay. They do like these Jovic guys.
Yes.
Like this is not out of the realm of what they do.
No. And like I said, like if you look at their like point guards, they have Terry Rozier, Davion Mitchell. Like those guys aren't really blowing you out of the water. So I think that Yegor could step in. Like I don't think he will be like a pure point guard in the NBA, but he has those skills.
Yep. All right, Jazz are back on the board.
Yes.
Number 21 overall. I don't think the board is broken necessarily poorly for the Jazz.
No.
You got Ace Bailey at 5.
Yeah.
And then you've got a lot of options out there. I'm not sure there's a couple of guys. I know there's a guy you really like on the board still. There's a guy I really like that's on the board still. So I think that's where it gets interesting.
Yes.
And I would just say the guy I think you really like is Rasheer Fleming.
Yes.
And the guy I really like is Walter Clayton. I think they're both excellent picks. And you know what? Rasheer, though, he's like kind of a similar height to Ace Bailey.
Yeah.
And it's like conceptually a like step it out, spread the floor big.
Yeah.
Who plays a little bit of defense. I actually don't think there's a lot of overlap there because like you should never ask Rasheer to dribble.
No.
And I think Ace is going to want to do some dribbling. Other names that I think would make sense, Liam McNeely, because you didn't end up with like a Con Knippel, and I'm not just saying that because they're white shooters.
Yeah.
I just mean like it's guys who can like play the 2-3, shoot, might be able to do a little bit of ball handling when things get better. Like Liam McNeely, as miscast as he was, may benefit long term from like having more ball in hand stuff at UConn that like develops into his career. So and Jace Richardson actually I think would be really interesting as well.
I was gonna ask, would you like say this is the board for the Jazz? Would you take Jace or Walter?
I like Walter a little bit better. But Jace is 18. He's 4 years younger. Is like an analytics darling.
Yeah.
But he is undersized. Mm-hmm. He's quite undersized.
Because of the Jazz ending up with Ace Bailey, I don't think they would take Rasheer here. So I am open to, like, I would say Jace or Walter.
I think you need two-way guys.
Okay.
I'm a little bit worried about it, but I think there's a chance he steps in, even though it's a deep spot for the Jazz. Mm-hmm. And he just steals a spot of one of your young guys. And I think you just go with Jace Richardson.
Jace Richardson?
Yeah,
okay.
I don't love it, in all honesty, but like you could really make an argument, and this is what you should do if you're the Jazz, and be like, he was 14 on our board.
Yeah.
And he's there at 21. Mm-hmm. And we have talked about this a lot. Like, that's going to happen.
Yes.
Somebody who's number 9 or 12 or someone on somebody's board is going to be there at 21 and 22 and 23, and someone's going to feel like they got a quote-unquote steal. Now, they actually have to prove it, and he's a little undersized, but like, it's the NBA DNA with who his dad is, and he was really good at Michigan State, and I really think he shoots the ball well. Like, I think he's going to stick. I think he's going to find a way to make it, even if he doesn't have terrific size. One of the things the Angels have not been afraid to draft is smaller guys who can really shoot. You know, Peyton Pritchard is killing it right now in Boston. I could see something. He's not a traditional point guard, but like fills the role. I could see something similar from Jace Richardson.
And this is what I said when we had talked about him, I think a week ago, which is like he has the NBA dad, who is 6'6", and he's only 18 years old. Like,
maybe there's another inch or two.
I was about to say, he could be 6'2", 6'3". Okay, is this your pick?
I guess technically. No, you were doing. I'm doing evens, right?
Yes. No, because you started with Cooper Flag.
Yeah, right. So it's your pick.
So the Hawks are up.
And the Hawks earlier drafted Joan Beranger.
Yes.
So he's raw.
Yeah. So which is like. Honestly, I think, like, let me just make sure. Like, you have Risa Shea from last year, Dyson Daniels. I think, and it's like, it's kind of weird because you have Jalen Johnson, but I think you go, I'm going to do Liam McNeely here.
Okay.
Like, every team needs shooting, and I think that he can step in, and if, like, he's the, like you had talked about on our podcast just before this, he had that first game sample size, got hurt, and then was worse during the second. Yeah. Similar to Kasparov Jakronic. If you're getting that first half version, then you're pretty happy.
I worry there's a little overlap with Risa Shea, who they drafted last year. I also would have considered Rasheer Fleming.
Yeah.
Like, I just think you can use those guys.
True.
At this point, I think there's a lot of value there. But I don't think that's a bad pick at all. Like, I think guys who step in and space the floor are really valuable in today's NBA, and they have plus size. Hornets, because the Hornets didn't get Ace Bailey, and again, we talked about how they're different players.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go Rasheer Fleming. I think that's a really easy fit for them.
For 23?
23.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that really makes a lot of sense for them. The Hornets have guys who have the ball, right? A lot. Like, Ball has the ball a ton, no pun intended. And I think Brandon Miller is going to have the ball.
Yeah.
So I think you just go out and you get a guy who is going to catch it and shoot it and play defense.
Yeah.
And will actually probably look pretty good next to LaMelo. So I think Rasheer is a pretty easy answer there.
Okay.
Rasheer Fleming. Number 24. Thunder on the board.
Yes, 24 Thunder. And again, this is like, what do you really do here? I think, again, like, just because of the situation they're in, like, it would be good to just go upside. I would be interested in Ben Seraph right here, but like you said, they have Nikola Topic from last year, and that's like a very similar player, which makes me want to go with a forward or a bigger guy.
Okay.
But then you get, like, the first center that pops up is Ryan Kalkbrenner, and I just don't think that's the answer for them.
No, I think Danny Wolf
could
be potentially interesting. He's strange. I'm not sure he's traditionally what they do.
Yes.
But he's probably better than this on most boards, in all honesty.
Yeah, and I will go with Danny Wolf here. I was just looking for, like, a younger player.
I'll also throw out another name, Noah Penda.
True.
Who can kind of guard up a little bit.
Yes.
And you can just wait on him for a while.
Yeah.
And if you give him a couple years to grow, he could be interesting. But anyways, it's your pick.
I'm going to go with Danny Wolf. I think Penda would probably be more like a Thunder style pick. But I think that's just, like, best player available.
And they can afford to take a swing.
Yes.
Danny Wolf is a weird dude. He kind of played point guard. He's 7 feet tall. He just might give you a dynamic that you don't have on your team currently. And if they want to play 5 out and you believe he can shoot, he gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Honestly, he gets pretty interesting. And you might be able to play with Chet, and then you get a funny team. It's weird, but I don't think they actually should be shying away from weird. They could add a new dynamic to the roster they don't have, and their dynamic's already good enough. All right. Magic on the board. They need shooting.
Yes.
Badly. Always. I know, I'm just taking Walter Clayton.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Actually, you know what? I'm not.
Okay.
I'm going to take Cedric Coward.
Cedric Coward. Okay.
Yeah, another guy we haven't talked about a whole
Yes.
lot. This would represent a minor slip for him. I think some of the smoke about him being like a lottery pick is a little too high.
Yeah.
6'6", really does shoot the ball well, but he only played 6 games at Washington State this year before he got hurt. Before that, he was beating up on dudes at Eastern Washington. That doesn't really mean a whole lot to me, in all honesty. But the Magic love long guys, and they need shooting, and I think Cedric Coward fits the bill.
Yes.
So I actually really do like Walter Clayton there. I think Walter Clayton would make a ton of sense, but I think historically what we know about the Magic and what they do, I'm going to go Cedric Coward.
Okay, I like that.
I like Clayton more, though.
Yes.
Even though he's a Florida guy.
Yeah.
Like, they've seen him. But I'll go Magic doing weird stuff.
Okay.
This gets hard.
Yeah. 26th pick, Brooklyn Nets, first of back-to-back picks for them. They've taken Jeremiah Fears and Maxime Reynaud, so a 1 and a 5, presumably. This gets interesting. I'm not going to take Walter Clayton, even though I think that looking at the board, he would be best player available. I'm going to go Noah Penda here.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. It was between him and Drake Powell.
I'm just going to take Drake Powell next.
Drake Powell next,
yeah.
okay.
They have back-to-back picks, the Brooklyn Nets do. So I think we can talk about them as kind of a package deal.
Yes.
I think they can still afford to swing for some upside here.
Yes.
Reynaud's a little bit older, so you already got him at 20. Penda's kind of a big guy. You could just get a guy at every position.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Drake Powell does. I'm actually not a huge Drake Powell guy. And I could just be totally wrong on that, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I just, he really, you didn't notice him on the floor at all. And you can say that's system, but it's like, if you're good enough, you get noticed.
Yes.
If you're good enough, like, you just make an impact. And there were games he just didn't make an impact in the slightest. So yeah, back to back. Is that all right?
Yeah.
To not beat up on who the Nets are taking necessarily. I'm not sure that's exactly what anyone's worried about with their 3rd and 4th picks.
Yes.
But I get it. I don't think that's a bad draft for them. Celtics coming in at number 28. Again, such a weird spot.
Yes.
They're just in a horrible spot.
Yeah.
I think Walter Clayton's a little too repetitive for them, even though they might need a guard because I think they're going to get rid of Drew Holiday. They like shooting historically, but Ainge is gone now, so they're doing something totally different. Could probably always use a big guy, and Kalkbrenner would step in and be interesting at the very least as like a backup 5.
Yeah.
I hate to be boring there, though. But man, that might just be what it is.
Kalkbrenner?
Again, like I told you, he should be the 55th pick,
Yeah.
so I think it's a huge reach, but I think that's where teams are talking about him.
Yeah.
And it's probably the most boring Celtics pick you can take, but I think they could use a backup, and sure, why not?
Yeah.
Kalkbrenner. Ryan Kalkbrenner. Big. Won a bunch of Defensive Player of the Year awards.
Yes.
In the Big East, I know I mentioned it.
Yeah.
But he's just not. He's not my cup of tea, but I get it.
All right, next up, Phoenix Suns.
Back on the board.
With the 29th pick. Their last pick was Yakushonis.
Which is a good pick.
Yeah, good
I like
pick.
that for them.
And so because of that, and also because they already have the 3-headed shooting guard monster that we had talked about, I don't think they go Traore or Walter Clayton, even though those feel like the best available. What do you know about Hugo Gonzalez?
Didn't play at all this year because he's on a really good team.
Yeah.
But like before that was like considered like a top 10 pick going into like the last couple of years. Like he was going to project to be that.
Yeah.
And then he goes and he's playing at a high level in the European leagues and literally only plays garbage minutes. So it's like there's really no way to see him.
Yes.
But would be an interesting high upside swing. Like I think he probably gets talks as high as like 18.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with that for them.
Okay. I think that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hugo Gonzalez going to the Suns. I would have also considered like Yannick Konen-Niederhauser as like a big who can catch some lobs.
Yes.
And, run the floor well. I think there's some interest there because they've got guards. You know, they certainly have guards.
Yes.
They could use a big guy to step in and help them there as well because they did unload some of their bigs. So let's go with Hugo Gonzalez at 29 and finishing it out point guard. This becomes too easy for me.
Yeah.
This is Walter Clayton.
Okay.
Yeah. This is so easy for me.
Yeah.
The Clippers need to win now. They need shooting. They need a guy who can step in and just like do a good job.
Yes.
And I think this is going to be a name you see a lot projected here if he's still on the board. But yeah, Walter Clayton. Really easy there.
That does it. Let's run through this really quick. Cooper Flag at 1, Dylan Harper, VJ Edgecombe.
Where are they going?
Oh, yeah. Dylan Harper to the Spurs, VJ Edgecombe to the 76ers, Knuppel to the Hornets, Ace Bailey to the Jazz, Trey Johnson to the Wizards, Kamen Malawash to the New Orleans Pelicans, Jeremiah Fierce to the Nets, Derek Queen to the Raptors, Kasparas Yakushonis to the Suns, Noah Essengate to the Blazers, Thomas Storber to the Bulls, how do you say his name again? I need help.
Johan Berenger
To the Atlanta Hawks. Colin Murray-Boyles to the Spurs. Carter Bryant to the Thunder. Nick Clifford to the Grizzlies. Asa Newell to the Timberwolves. Will Riley to the Wizards. Maxime Reynaud to the Nets. Yegor Demon to the Heat at 20. Jace Richardson, Jazz 21st pick. Liam McNeely to the Hawks at 22. Rasheer Fleming to the Pelicans. Danny Wolf to the Thunder. Cedric Coward to the Magic. Noah Penta to the Nets. Drake Powell to the Nets as well. Ryan Kalkbrenner to the Celtics at 28. Hugo Gonzalez to the Suns at 29. And then Walter Clayton Jr. rounds out the first round 30 to the Clippers.
That would be back-to-back Creighton guys, I think, for the Celtics.
Yeah.
They took, what's his name? Now he's skipping my mind last year in the draft. But anyways, back-to-back Creighton players taken by the Celtics in the last 2 years. Who had a good draft in this group?
I mean,
I like what the Hornets did in our mock.
Yes, absolutely. I think that was good. I also, with the Pelicans, they get Kamen Malawash at 7, and then what was their second pick? Rasheer Fleming at 23.
Baylor Shireman.
Yeah.
Last year, who they drafted at the end of the first round. Baylor Shireman from Creighton also. Anyways.
I think Kaman Malawash and Rasheer Fleming for the Pelicans. I think that's a really good draft considering you don't really know what's going to happen with Zion.
Okay.
And then, I think the Jazz getting Ace Bailey and Jace Richardson is awesome as well.
That'd be pretty interesting.
Yes.
It'd be weird. I'm not sure, I don't feel super confident about those names. That doesn't feel super jazzy to me historically. But Austin Ainge is coming in and might try and do something totally different.
Yeah.
And I would understand why they got those guys. Spurs getting Dylan Harper and Colin Murray-Boyles is interesting. Certainly those are some people think Colin Murray-Boyles is a fifth best player in this draft.
Yeah.
So I think there's value there. I think Asa Newell to the Timberwolves would have been a good pick.
Yeah.
I like that the Suns did. I like Kasparas Yakushonis, and Hugo Gonzalez is a good upside swing at a position of need. So interesting. You see how weird the board falls.
Yes.
And there are Jazz fans I know out there who are I can't believe you passed on Cedric Coward at 21. It's some people think he's gone at 14.
Yeah.
The draft is hard, and doing actual mock drafts in order lets you realize how guys fall.
Yes.
And how things, your plans of I think this guy's going to be here at 17, they're gone at 12, and you're scrambling. It's all of a sudden there's nobody on the board for you anymore. Or the position of need you thought you wanted, the Suns at 10 needing a big guy, or the Raptors at 9 needing a big guy. And it's if Derek Queen and Kamen Malawash are both gone, which is very possible, it's oh no, it's Jeremiah Fierce. We don't want that pick.
Yeah.
So I like mock drafts. I will write up this mock draft and put it in order for you. It'll be available at KSLSports.com. You can kind of see a breakdown of the picks. But this would have Ace Bailey and Jace Richardson going to the Jazz, and I promise you Jazz would get a lot of A-pluses from national media. Doesn't matter. You never know. They'd have to get on the floor and show out. But nice thing is Jace would be complimentary of Ace, I think, and both would find fits with the Jazz.
Jason Ace.
Jason Ace. And then the Jazz have 2 picks in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a busy night for Jazz fans. Thanks to everybody who paid attention to this, whether you're a Jazz fan or not. We will be back with a live Jazz Notes coming up Wednesday night after the draft, reviewing what the Jazz did. And then obviously a ton of coverage at KSLSports.com. All of our previews are there as well. You can go find them of most of these players. I mean, it's something like 20 guys now we've written up.
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of the names that are going to be in play for the Jazz. So go check those out at KSLSports.com. Follow us on Twitter, Ben's Hoops and C Holt Sports, and we'll talk to you again later this week.